or so, he turned the pages while she told him about the rest of the pictures that had been taken at her family reunion. After they had looked at the last photo, he placed the album back on the table, then sank lower on the sofa and stretched his legs out before him. He began talking, telling her about a particular case he was working on, one involving a client who wanted her prenuptial agreement declared invalid. "I thought a prenuptial was ironclad." He shook his head, smiling. "A number of people think that. However, as with anything else, exceptions can be made, especially if the behavior of one of the individuals comes into play. In certain situations, a prenuptial agreement can be overturned." Alexia tried not to analyze Quinn's features while he spoke, but couldn't help doing so. Not only did she enjoy looking at him, she enjoyed listening to him as well. His voice was deep, rough, sexy. The sound of it made her insides tingle. She could just imagine how it would be to wake up to the sensuous sound of it each and every morning. While he continued talking, her eyes skimmed over his chest. She wondered if he had a hairy chest, and if so, how her naked breasts would feel rubbing against it. Her gaze then moved to his lap. The thighs she saw covered in denim seemed strong, firm, with sinewed strength. She thought about straddling those thighs while they were completely naked, with his hands guiding her movements over him as she rode him in sure strokes, moving up and down, forcing him to climax inside of her as she ground herself more tightly against him, taking his seed into her womb. "Alexia?" The deep, sexy sound of Quinn's voice reclaimed her attention as it drifted over her. She raised her gaze and saw the eyes watching her were compelling, magnetic. She sucked in a deep breath when she also saw they were smoldering with fiery desire. Their gazes held. Neither could look away. The room was quiet except for the shallow sound of their breathing. Then, as if he had been privy to her earlier thoughts, he reached over and lifted her onto his lap to straddle him. As he framed her face in his hands, his mouth hungrily covered hers, greedily devouring her, more so than it had the other day. She was not prepared for the magnitude of his kiss as his lips took complete possession, nibbling and sucking while arousing her to a feverish peak and sending new spirals of ecstasy through her. It made her body ache even more. He continued kissing her as his hands moved downward to lift her dress up to her waist. Quinn moved his legs, stretching them apart and, in doing so, spreading hers wide open and getting easy access to the very heat of her. His mouth remained locked to hers as his hands slid under her dress, not surprised to discover she wasn't wearing any underwear. His fingers immediately went to work to explore, to touch and to claim the heart of her sex. When her body jerked from the sensation of his fingers' intimate touch, his mouth gentled her by his constant assault on hers, savoring every moment of doing so, hungrily devouring her tongue, swallowing her sighs and moans of pleasure. When Alexia felt herself succumbing to the domination and skill of his mouth, she pulled away, braced her hands on his shoulders while her head fell forward, limp with desire, on his chest. Currents raced through her body, the likes of which she had never felt before. He was relentless in what he was doing to her. The pad of his thumb continued to stroke her, demanding her readiness. Her fingers dug into his shoulders, holding on as she abandoned herself to the sensations he was making her feel, sweetly draining all of her fears, doubts, and resistance, and making her forget about her well-orchestrated plan. Even that couldn't compete against this uncontrollable passion and this intoxicating need. No man had ever touched her so boldly, to the core, branding her sex his, making it crave his touch. And no man had ever made her moan aloud in sexual pleasure. His fingers were tearing away any self-control she may have had. They were tearing away any walls of resistance she may have erected. She felt some sort of